Croeso Channel Black Lwyd. Before we begin the story, Howley and I like to tell you that Arches can be an emotionally intense experience and may not be for everyone. Once more into the breach, dear friends, once more. And only once more have we reached the finale for Arches. And if you're expecting Password, that will be in a couple of days. I did a quick poll on Twitter and YouTube to see whether people wanted Arches today or Tuesday. And the vote was overwhelmingly for Arches, so here we are. And Tyson's finale and Password will be Tuesday. Or maybe Wednesday morning, depending on your time zone. Don't worry about that. And as usual, I have read through this ahead of time, and I have to say, Howley and the entire team on Arches have done a great job throughout this VN. I know you're going to enjoy this final episode. So special mention to them, everyone involved, who you'll see in the credits later. Amazing work, all of you. And as always, I have to give a quick mention to my top patrons. Andy Pengs, Muto, Omar, Big Booty Judy, Nova Starbun, Vulpers Need Coffee, Burnt Toast, Kartek, Govers Visser, Lexi Butcherati, Lar Cuskerton, Bastion, Brian Hall, Tiger Cub, Ida Corval, Anubis Silverwind, Dissonance, Grizz, Spiderling, Kopi, Cindy Dragowolf, Marcus, Evan King, Exac, Aaron Fox, and Mohammed Al Zamel. Thanks to them, and thanks to all my donors on Patreon and Ko-fi, you're very much appreciated. And a quick mention as well to CV4, Steve Valian, who wrote the music for the channel. You'll see why I mention them at the end. But special mention to them because I don't say it enough as well. But that's it. That's all I need to say for now. Let's get into Arches. The terrible change comes almost exactly 3 weeks later. Cameron had been feeling strange ever since they got back home, like he wasn't quite himself. After a flurry of hospital visits, police interviews, and even harassment from the media, things had become strangely quiet. It's a broken road. Brian Dubois was a serial killer with a victim count in the double digits, with all of the murders taking place over the course of nearly 4 decades. That would get national attention, of course, especially since Brian appeared to be involved in the high-profile disappearance of a college freshman last year. The body cam footage of their dramatic rescue from the mines even made the rounds on social media. For about 2 days. At the same time, a pandemic was picking up steam, and media attention focused there instead. Cameron didn't mind. That lack of attention made his recovery much easier. His burst liver and severely damaged kidney had left him needing surgery. The hospital did what they could for his elbow, and his doctors were hopeful that with a lot of physical therapy, he could at least use it for basic necessities. While it did suck to maybe never be able to bend his elbow correctly, or without pain, what really devastated Cameron was the weakness and near-maddening tingling in his pinky and ring finger. So for now, despite him being eager to get back to it, guitar was an absolute no. For now. But what about forever? On top of that, Cameron had been trying to banish that damn voice from his head. No, the negative thoughts from his head. Right? Just a flashback, one of the shitty leftovers from his shroom trip. Either way, all he could do was try to ignore it, despite it making itself known at least once a day. Cameron, something's wrong. But things continued to feel strange. It didn't seem to be related to his ESP, so he could easily tell when that was happening. Ever since the shroom trip, a haze of psychic ability lingered around him, allowing him to capture thoughts and feelings seemingly at random. Downloading is what some people like him like to call it. He didn't have much control, though. Sometimes he wasn't even able to tell if the download he was receiving was from the living or the dead. Cameron even began to try and hone his abilities and experiment with just how much he could do. What he quickly figured out was that without some sort of illicit substance, his clairvoyance lacked a great deal of fuel that had powered his abilities in Echo. That would make it easier, and so it had been in an active location like Echo, of course. Echo is one of those locations, though, obviously, but there are so many others. It's a desert lake. Every now and then Cameron would find himself pausing, like at the back door of Devon's house. The chill would run down his spine. That feeling always meant an echo was attached to something somewhere nearby. That's what Cameron called the beings. Not exactly intelligent, or even living, but entities that interacted with and usually threatened the living. In that particular case, it emanated from under the back porch. When he told Devon about it, the bear knew immediately what Cameron was talking about. "Oh yeah, I'd hear something moving under there all the time, like a person crawling around. Well, even Dad says he saw red eyes under there once." Being more sensitive didn't exactly answer questions, though. Like, why is it there? Where did it come from? What the hell is it? All he knows is not a person, and it never was a person. Because they're all demons. And while Cameron had seen that old spark of interest in Devon's eyes, he had told Cameron to just ignore it and focus on their visit, for now. Devon just wanted everything to go away, quietly, like it never happened. That included Cameron's abilities. That was at the end of the second week. Over the course of his life, Cameron would look back on that visit as one of the last times he was truly himself. It's a trailer home in the southwest. By the third week, Cameron was recovering at a remarkable rate, and so Devon began to pay Artie more visits and phone calls. Arturo's improvement was also rapid, but Cameron was left feeling a little sad that Artie never asked to talk to him, would only ask Devon how the coyote was holding up. It made sense, he would tell himself. Devon and Artie go back further than even Devon and himself did. Sure, something had felt off, but considering the circumstances, nothing was normal at that time. As the third week progressed, what had been bubbling below the surface made itself fully known. The only thing that seemed to be getting back to normal were his dreams. Sometimes he'd still wake up whimpering or crying, thinking he was back in Echo. Devon had it far worse, waking up in a howling panic, yelling about guns, chains and death. Those were the times when Cameron did his best to give comfort and support, at least as best as his patched up and sore body could manage. But now, with some time between him and what happened, Cameron feels like a part of him is missing. Like he's not fully present. It's like pieces of him litter the town of his trauma. It felt like he was still there, in a way. When that feeling really started to set in, that's when it happened. A small pressure in his right ear started to develop. It was something that he was sure had to do with the hearing loss he'd experienced from the shotgun blast. It was irritating. It felt bizarre. They'd set up another appointment with Cameron's audiologist a few weeks from then. The hearing loss was likely permanent, then something began to replace it. Right in the middle of the afternoon. April 2020. Cameron starts working again that week. He wants to feel useful again. Because they're both working from home now, it seems like a reasonable idea. Devon didn't want him starting yet, of course, but Cameron wants that sense of normalcy to come back faster, and his shitty job had seemed like the perfect solution. Trying to work with mostly one paw does come as a bigger challenge than Cameron had expected, not realising how much he used his non-dominant one. Typing is particularly slow, but he was getting better at managing it. Still, it makes him sluggish, and even though his boss is understanding, even telling him to just forward any rude customers her way, it still leaves him occasionally flustered in ways he isn't used to. After a rather harsh call, it begins with, "Thank God, someone I can finally fucking understand." Then ends with, "You know what would have been faster?" Cameron waits for the answer. "Anything. It's the last time I buy some chink-ass phone made in some shit factory." Cameron rubs his eyes, wondering how different the interactions would be if they did face-to-face video calls. His phone was actually assembled in the States after Julian pledged. It's not the answer the man wants to hear. Cameron can tell before he even gets cut off. "Transfer me to your superior, please." "Of course, one moment." As Cameron reaches the button to his boss's line, he hears the man muttering under his breath. "Didn't they hire retards for customer service?" No big deal. He would get one of these every week, and according to his co-workers, it's gotten worse since the pandemic started. But why did that one hurt his feelings so badly, to the point his eyes are welling up with tears? Maybe it's because he went through hell and back, and that man has no idea. No idea. Then his computer screen seemed to stretch far away, and Cameron finds himself grabbing the edge of his desk like he's about to fall over. Pressure grows in his right ear, and he realises that maybe that's what's causing the strange feeling of being off balance as the world tilts. But no, he's tripping again. It's a flashback, just a flashback. No, it's brain damage. You'll probably feel like this forever. Brian poisoned you. Cameron holds very still, positive he didn't think those thoughts just now. And you are a fucking retard. Can't handle a literal customer stereotype. Just smash the keyboard and admit you can't work anymore. Cameron brings a paw up to his right ear, where the voice came from. Is his headset still on, or... No! And you can tell it's coming from inside your head, you idiot! You stupid fuck! Worthless! After that, Cameron remembers very little except panic, followed by confusion, a ton of confusion. His thoughts make no sense. The voice is definitely not his thoughts. Doesn't make sense, and now he doesn't understand where he is. The voice continues to encourage him to smash the keyboard. So he does, just as if maybe it will break this bizarre half-dream. Devon, in his own study, hears this. After finding Cameron sobbing on the ground, surrounded by black plastic keycaps and bleeding from reopened stitches, a frantic Devon drives him to the hospital. Maybe I'll stop if you grab the wheel and turn into the median. For old time's sake. And he doesn't even need a fucking fan. Look, Mom, no fans. The voice snickers. Continues to laugh him all the way to the psychiatric ward. October 2020. About 7 months after Echo, and 6 months after his episode, Cameron feels worse than he did right after Echo. The voice that wormed its way into his damaged ear disappeared after just a few days of antipsychotic treatment, but returned again, and again, every few days. Whenever something upset him, whenever he gets into arguments with Devon, and really, whenever it pleases, it makes itself known. It comes in a deep masculine voice, though sometimes it's Brian-like in how it taunts and laughs at him. Short asides that was sometimes mean, sometimes meaningless, and sometimes boring, about all the things Cameron would do and the people he would see. It feels like it's trying to remind Cameron things aren't okay as weeks continue to come and go with manageable but clearly present psychotic symptoms. He had worried his broken arm would stop him from being able to play music as well as he used to. Turns out, he didn't have to worry about all that, because he doesn't give a fuck anymore. Like a switch, his interests, his motivation, his want to do anything productive or useful seem to just turn off. His thought process had been wrecked, and his organised thought during his episodes became present even when he wasn't having one. His mother said she needed meth because it fought the feelings that her psychosis brought on, which was brought on by the meth. A vicious cycle. And speaking of which, he finally got his diagnosis. Schizophrenia, likely induced by the trauma and drug use in Echo. Not that it really matters what induced it, because the problem is that he has it. There's no taking that back, after all. Propranolol for restlessness from akathisia, escitalopram for depression, trazodone for sleep and depression, topiramate for weight control, guanfacine for tics, and PTSD, and clonazepam is needed for anxiety and panic attacks. His head tilts to the right before coming back up in a sort of twitching movement twice. Tick. The symptoms of schizophrenia are devastating enough, but so are the side effects of the antipsychotics to treat it. Side effects that are covered up by medications that cause even more side effects, which in turn are maybe more tolerable. The first antipsychotic he tried made him too tired. He's finally switched after 4 months. This switch aggravated the dopamine in his brain, according to his last psychiatrist, and for some reason this meant that his childhood motor and vocal tics got to come back. Not just come back, but they came back with a vengeance. The point that when he got especially emotional, his neck and sometimes his body would go into an uncontrollable twitching fit. At least he could hide it, or at the very least control it when he was younger. It makes him feel like some kind of freak show in public. His vocal tics would come up at the worst moments, and talking to anyone other than Devon would result in awful humiliations that sometimes triggered psychosis again. But when a vocal tic involving his diaphragm appeared, one they'd never had before, Cameron really began to despair. It would force him to exhale for 10 to 15 seconds before holding until he nearly blacked out. Then it would release, and he would gasp in air again, vision coming back through blurry tears, only for it to happen half a dozen more times in agonizing waves. It was so distressing that each time it happened, it triggered an episode, and he'd be left with so many tics happening at once that even Devon couldn't communicate with him. The familiar tightening in his abdomen signalling the approach of another episode was enough to make him whine and cry in dread. All of this because of that damn pill that's supposed to help him. 3 or 4 of those vocal episodes every day for a week, and Devon had finally had enough and found a different psychiatrist. This helped a great deal, and Cameron found himself trusting her far more than he ever did his first psychiatrist. She immediately switched him to another antipsychotic, one that she said would help his tics too. Still, when Cameron had been readying himself to take his first dose, he broke down, and he cried like a child. He even begged Devon not to make him take it, which has made the whole situation so much worse. What if it caused more problems to show up? What if it made him worse? Cameron read about all the horrible lifelong side effects that antipsychotics can cause. Dyskinesia, akathisia, dystonia, catatonia, and his old childhood bane that he'd almost forgotten about, Tourette's syndrome. The word tardive can be placed in front of any of these symptoms, which means that if you stop taking the drug, if years go by, the symptom lingers. Then there's always the worry the tolerance might build, supersensitivity might set in, and the dosage might need to be increased. Then he might develop a treatment-resistant form of schizophrenia. All from these little pills, wreaking havoc on the synapses of his brain. More poison, more brain damage. Cameron rubbed his right ear vigorously. You're the brain damage asshole. Fuck you, you brain-damaged piece of shit. Why don't you take the whole bottle? Pathetic faggot. Think you can just talk to me like that, fucker? Remembering the management techniques his therapist taught him, Cameron takes a deep breath. Okay, time to take my medication. It's been a few weeks now, and my tics have decreased by over half, and I haven't had a breathing tic in 4 days. I feel like this is good progress. What thing is Positive symptoms have decreased by maybe 40% over the last week. Good progress. I just hope my negative symptoms improve as well. That's my next goal once I reach stability. His thoughts are his own again, and it makes Cameron feel he's a little bit better knowing that some things are coming easier. He begins opening his pill organizer and pulls out the most important one. His psychiatrist had been right, and for once, Cameron feels like they might have at least found the right road to the new him. Despite tolerating paliperidone much better than the last antipsychotic, it still causes the same side effects that make him need to take all the other meds. At least it's making his tics better. Tick, tick, tick. Though he doubts they'll ever truly go away like they did in his childhood. Tardive Tourette syndrome. Devastating on its own, but still controllable, manageable with time. He has to believe that. As the sound of pills rattling against plastic seems to echo through the kitchen, Cameron hears Devon in his study. "Oh, you're taking them now? Oh, just a sec." That was fast. Cameron mutters under his breath, feeling just a little resentful, knowing that Devon had been listening in on his thinking out loud technique. Cameron sighs and picks up the pill again, staring at it closely, as if able to see its molecular structure, engineered to block the dopamine receptors in his brain. The root cause of psychosis, at least at the molecular level. It's more complicated than that. It always is. Devon comes in with just his underwear on. A year ago it would have been a sight that Cameron would have appreciated. He probably would have put his arms around him and rubbed his face into his chest like he used to. But his sex drive was killed months ago, either from meds or from one of the many symptoms of schizophrenia. It's just another reminder he's not who he used to be. While sex is the last thing on his mind, Cameron knows it's important in a relationship. He occasionally would force himself to do it and pretend to enjoy it, where everything aches now, and in the end he'd find himself staring at the ceiling. Devon noticed and eventually suggested they wait until Cameron feels better, until he actually wants it himself, which only made Cameron feel worse. Devon's libido is stronger than Cameron's ever was, so he knows it must be sexually frustrating for the bear. But right now, Devon is just standing there, smiling pleasantly as he watches Cameron. "Making sure you take your poison. He wants your brain damaged more than it already is." A jolt of fear, a dipping into unreality. Cameron feels angry about how easily the voice slipped into his thoughts again. Useful poison. Cameron winces at the crazy coming out of his mouth. "Sorry, I'm just thinking out loud. That's why you're wondering." "Okay, that's good. Remember, it does interact up right before you take your medications. Don't worry about it too much." "Yeah. You know I don't need you to watch me anymore." It's quiet as Cameron swallows the pill, angling himself so Devon can see. Then he follows it with the rest of the 5 or so pills he holds in his paw. Cameron finishes swallowing those, knowing that in an hour he won't be able to keep his eyes open. "Right? Or do you still not trust me?" "No, I agree with you. We also agreed I'd do it for at least a year, just in case. Even if you said you were fine, remember?" Cameron hates the fact that he's right. "Yeah, because you don't trust me." Spitefully, Cameron turns to show Devon the inside of his tongue, as if the bear might be suspicious he's hiding it. "Cameron. You want to do a cavity search too? Hey, maybe that can be our solution. I take my meds and you get to play with my ass." Cameron feels the burst of anger from Devon, and for some reason it feels good. "Well, that's kind of a fucked up thing to say, don't you think? Is that what you think I even care about right now?" Devon's already sounding angry, quicker than he usually does, and suddenly they're in a fight. The ones they never had before Echo. Things must be getting extra stressful for Devon if it's this easy to provoke him, and Cameron should do something to help him, to soothe him. But instead he wants this fight. For a moment he even wants Devon to hit him. "Kill him. Grab one of the knives." To punch him right in the face and end everything as they know it. Not much on to lose anyway. "Why are you all of a sudden intent on me taking my meds? Be different from college, right?
This is so different, Cameron. Well, I know I talked shit on psychology before. I did like I knew what it was about. Like you say, everyone changes.
It's because I'm a problem to you now. You just want me to take what will make me not crazy. It makes me feel like shit.
I want you to get better.
I'm not going to get better, Devon. This is permanent.
Doesn't mean you can't get better. That's the point.
And then I'll relapse.
If you relapse, we'll help you get better again.
I don't even care about this stupid voice anymore, even the tics.
Fuck you. I'll make you care, you piece of shit.
Tick, tick, tick. It feels like my soul has been sucked out. I don't know if it's the meds or the crazy or just me, but I hate it.
I hate it too. I hate it so much. I hate you feel this way. That's why I'm doing this.
You don't even have a fucking clue what this is like. Everyone just talks about the voices and hallucinations and delusions. What about the cognitive shit? I can't think, nothing feels real, and I feel dead.
You're right, I don't. But you're all I think about almost every minute of the day because I see you suffer, and I want to stop it.
Lies, idiot, fucking faggot, hurt and kill him. I'm probably suffering because of the meds. It's like back in college, but 10 times worse. I can't write, even listen to music anymore. I don't want to do anything.
Come on, Cameron. This is the main reason people relapse. Their positive symptoms go away, they think they're better. When they stop their meds, the negative symptoms aren't as bad. And then they relapse. You need time. A year at least, and maybe then we can start tapering off. But not now.
What if I do relapse? It's like only half of schizophrenics that even achieve full 10-year remission. Medical literature he obsessed over pours out of his mouth. Shitty quality of life after 30 years off the average life expectancy, incurable.
Then we'll try again, alright?
A burst of anxiety from Devon. While Cameron never thought hard on what he might do, he did suppose he'd consider ending it. If this is how the rest of his life will play out, he's sure he will, eventually. But only when Devon isn't here to take that blow.
Hates you, wants you to die.
The voice continues to talk, and Cameron rubs his ear, trying to ground himself. Right. The obvious signs of Cameron having an episode seem to bring Devon back down as well. The bear quickly hugs Cameron.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Despite his sore and sensitive skin, it feels good after the burst of anger and sadness. I'm just sad. Sam thinks I had such a good life with you, and it feels like it was just yesterday, but it's just gone now. It's strange that he can remember his past life so vividly, the feeling of being mostly normal in his brain. Devon squeezes him tighter.
You always talk about the new you, and now we just have to wait for him to get here. We'll have a new life. It'll just be a rough couple of months, maybe a bit longer.
Cameron sniffles. What day is it anyway? Like the 15th?
24th, I think.
I forgot your birthday was last week. I just remembered now.
Devon laughs. Honestly? Oh, me too.
The hardest thing about that particular argument for Devon was he completely empathised with Cameron. You can't imagine being in that situation, made to take medication that changes him so fundamentally that he's not in full control of his movements, or even his breathing. The Coyote is justified in being angry, sad, childish, and sometimes outright spiteful. That doesn't mean it isn't unsettling seeing Cameron lash out and cry in ways Devon had never seen him come close to before. At points, it feels like he's watching the deconstruction of a life in real time. It leaves his stomach feeling hollow and sick, like it did days after Brian had a go at it. The thought of the old bear makes Devon so angry that now he wishes the man was still alive. At least then there'd be a chance for him to try and knock out a few more of his teeth in court during the victim impact statement, or something. And the stress continues to build as Cameron's condition remains unstable. The transfer is scheduled for November, and Devon is trying to type up an extremely apologetic and professional email to explain the situation, and also request a possible video meeting to delay the transfer. It's a reasonable request, especially considering the state of the world at the moment. But then, seemingly out of nowhere, his breathing picks up speed. Confused, Devon watches the edges of his vision begin to darken. Can't figure out why he suddenly feels as if he's going to pass out. The first thing that comes to Devon's mind is Arturo's older brother, who died of a pulmonary embolism after surgery. The one that Artie talked about casually while high, even though Devon knows he's still devastated by it. Devon stands up from his desk, walking, then sinking to the ground as the room spins.
Cam, I need help, please. I can't.
Before he can stop himself, he blurts out Cameron's name, simultaneously questioning whether that's a good idea or not. Cameron, seeing his boyfriend die in front of him, wouldn't exactly help his mental state, so it's better that he's probably sleeping like a rock right now. He pulls out his phone as he's on his knees, having pressed the 9 and 1 for a very groggy, sedated Cameron comes in, his expression of bleary confusion turning to fear.
Don't worry. I just can't catch my fucking breath.
A look of recognition comes over the coyote's face, and kneeling in front of Devon, he presses the bear's head against his chest. Devon, it's okay. We're okay. Breathe with me. Devon's not sure if that's what the problem is, but after just a few seconds it stops. Are you okay? I've never seen you like that before. Devon sees Cameron's neck twitch multiple times and immediately feels like an idiot. Here he is, having a stupid, breathless panic attack, while Cameron is having vocal tics that force him to almost pass out from not being able to breathe. Devon tries to get him to go back to bed, but Cameron sleeps on the sofa in the study, determined to be there if Devon needs him again. While Devon feels like he should be the one doing the comforting right now, he is glad to have Cameron there. So that's what the coyote feels like when he's panicking. A scary moment, but Devon doubts he'll let the feeling sneak up on him again, now that he's familiar with it. He had considered therapy and medication, like he's constantly trying to find for Cameron, but a part of him has to admit that he's scared too. Besides, he's not bad enough that he needs that help. He'll settle on what always helped him deal with stress in the past, which is being active. Exercise will be good for both of them, actually. Once he sends this email, he'll figure out how to renew both of their gym memberships, assuming the place is still even open. Devon steps out of the gym, taking a deep breath of the frigid February air. There aren't many cars or people on the street, not this early on a Saturday morning. Probably because they're sleeping in like they should be. Devon instinctively begins to reach out for Cameron's paw, but he's not there. He hasn't been there for a while now. Almost a year. Well, what he used to be is there. At home. In the urn sitting on Cameron's old dresser, along with all the coyote's other little possessions that Devon had kept. It hurts even more, but he's almost certain that Cameron would have loved this city. He would do a better job remembering that Cameron isn't right next to him if... Quit thinking about me like I'm dead.
I'm not. I'm thinking about you like you're physically gone.
I'd almost been physically present. I guess I could be dead, but it doesn't really matter.
You're not dead. I'm just like... your vessel now.
That is such a creepy word. Just say like I'm like your passenger. By the way, you reek.
Well, it's Saturday, so I don't have work. Besides, I'm not taking a shower in their air-dry temperature is room temperature.
I mean, I didn't say I didn't like it. It's from a fresh workout.
Devon grunts as he makes his way through the parking lot towards his car.
You're pushing yourself really hard, to be honest. Take it easier next time.
Taking it easy is what got you hurt. Anyway, the more echoes we can kill off, the better.
I doubt we can have that much of an impact, Devon. This shit is old. Ancient, even. It's a lot bigger than us in a lot of different ways.
I just want to see how well this works out. If it can be done, maybe we can tell others about it. Start a movement?
To get off haunted places at the source. But how many people have their dead boyfriend in their head giving them psychic abilities?
Well, I won't tell them that part. Just the psychic part.
Gonna take credit for my abilities?
Hey, I'm learning to fight too. See how much I've been bulked up. Devon flexes his muscles underneath his winter coat and padding. Muscles he wishes he had when he'd fought Brian.
Didn't you could punch ghosts? I wish you get a different coach. He beats on you way too hard.
Oh, I knew what I was getting into. Anyway, remember about the source. Usually it's some shitty person feeding these places.
Oh, well, punching real people sounds worse, actually.
Either way, this is all a good workout. You should try. Devon catches himself halfway through saying it. Even though he knows it's coming, and even though he tries to stop it, the imagery of Cameron's ruined face flashes through his mind. He should just be happy the coyote is still talking to him. That he's still with him. Kind of. Oh, I miss you.
Please don't do that, Devon. I'm right here.
I want to hold you.
You basically are, and I'm giving you a big emotional hug right now. I'd also be feeling out your muscles too, because you're bulked up nicely.
Devon laughs and wipes his eyes. Thanks, Cam. Cameron watches all of this, but not that Cameron in Devon's head. The Cameron that avoided the shotgun, that survived. He's had these dreams a few times. At first he simply thought them be traumatic nightmares from a traumatic event. But this is one of those dreams that feels so real, you almost can't tell he's dreaming. They're not really nightmares either. Usually they're mundane, kind of funny and kind of sad. The dreaming Cameron, for some reason, doesn't trust his passenger Cameron at all. This version of himself feels off, almost like there isn't even a soul to go with him. Otherwise he sounds and acts just like he does, or did before the diagnosis. It makes him wonder if he'd trade off given the opportunity. Cameron isn't waking up, so little else to do he reaches out mentally and digs into this other Cameron a bit deeper. What he sees lasts only a second. After tearing out Brian's throat, this Cameron immediately began communicating with him. But he began speaking to Devon shortly after the younger Baird ripped out Brian's throat. It's not an illness, not like what Cameron has, but it's still Echo. It's part of that town, and Cameron doesn't want this Devon to...
Devon, he's back!
A feeling difficult to describe comes over Cameron. It's something from that dead Cameron, that entity that acts and talks like Cameron. The thing that's currently attached to that Devon. He's tied up, bound with rope with a foul-tasting rag gagging him. The big bear's been gone for over an hour. No matter how hard he tries, he can't make the zip ties and chains move. And then his stomach turns and the meal Brian had brought him at the bar seems to come back up. He's going to throw up, but he's chained down on his back with a gag in his mouth. He's going to throw up, and then he's going to drown. Vomit floods his mouth. Cameron leaps out of bed, one paw over his muzzle.
He stubs his toe horrifically on the doorframe of the bathroom, bending back the claw so it's left bleeding and almost ripped out. He makes it to the toilet in time to retch up the small amount of whatever is in his stomach. His name was Alan. A rat, Cameron thinks. The coyote can't remember the last name. The last name of the man who drowned in his own vomit. Cameron sobs, both for himself and for the poor young rat that lived a short, hard life, only for it to end by choking on the shitty food Brian lured him in with. After a minute, the coyote calms down and listens, thankful that Devon is an incredibly heavy sleeper. What he'd seen definitely happened, and even though the police stopped trying to interview him after learning about his schizophrenia diagnosis, he'd still put in an anonymous tip tomorrow. Cameron knows there's at least twice as many victims the police know about, and he plans to report every single one that he sees. Summer 2021. Half a year later, Cameron finally starts to feel as if he's starting to live life again. Not his old life, but a new, unfamiliar one. Tapering down his meds along with exercise indefinitely helped, which is why he came here with Devon to visit Arturo. When he sees his old friend, he feels a bit better, just based on the shape of his own amalgamation. It's a bit more full, and while it's still damaged, it's also at peace. Cameron knows that feeling. He's different now, and he's accepted that. But he's still Arturo, which the cat has come to accept too. He's just different now, changed, like everyone changes. A terrible, dramatic change, but one that can happen to anyone. Things always tend to get worse, but then they tend to get better too. And Cameron knows this just by looking at Arturo. While the coyote did just want to see his old friend, he also wanted to know a few other things. His methods are morally questionable, but he justifies it since he's tired of being kept in the dark. Now before they get there, Cameron eats a piece of chocolate from the backpack he brought for their stay at a motel. Devon complains when Cameron says he's the last one. The coyote knows the bear would lose his mind if he knew what exactly Cameron did. And that was microdosing psilocybin. Stupid, idiotic, unbelievable when it could cause him severe, lasting damage. Idiot! Might have been what triggered his schizophrenia, but his abilities increased tenfold even on this tiny amount. Besides, it made him feel better. Of course, he'd tell Devon when more time has passed. The bear's shown almost zero interest in the paranormal as of late. Maybe he'll just tell him he's taking it for the mood lift. For now, he just wants to take in the emotions and conversation. Well, what I'm trying to do is get rid of this damn limp. That's what people notice most, if I'm not talking. Cameron smiles pleasantly, despite the fact Arturo is more guarded and fortified mentally than anyone else he's met, which is the last thing he'd expected. I actually didn't even notice. Ah, well, you will next time you see me walk. Anyway, I hear you work on your masters, Devon? Every stutter, every struggle feels like a physical blow to Cameron, but he tries not to show it. He knows Artie doesn't want useless pity right now, and Cameron always hated it too.
Yep, how about the University of Deseret?
Sweet. In what, mechatronics or?
Robotics.
Of course, and how's that, how's that progressing?
Oh, good. Just finished my first semester.
And the place you're working at, they're financing it? That's really quick.
I'm with the same company. It was always part of the plan once we moved. Still got graduated from to reimburse my tuition, though.
No pressure. I don't know, he does it all. Work, school, cooking, gaming. And you're good at all of it. I just like him. He'd party and drink the night for a final, and ace it while hungover. Cameron is close enough to Devon to see the skin flush under his fur. While some might find Devon to be overly humble, there's more to this sort of imposter syndrome. Cameron knows it must be awkward to be praised for not having to study, or work as hard as his fellow students and co-workers. Despite that, Cameron still feels proud knowing his boyfriend is already inching into a leadership position at the company. He has no doubt the bear will be doing incredible things in his career.
So, how are things going for you? What are you doing these days? Weren't you thinking about going back to work at that specialised school?
Yep, Spectrum Solutions Academy, early back. Went back as soon as I got vaccinated. Still in RPT, working with kids with low-functioning autism.
Well, how is it?
Great. It's almost like going back home. I'm supposed to have like 2 clients, but they've got about 5 on me now. They're so happy to see me. They can tell something's a bit off about me, though. Sounds a bit rough. Is your recovery still going well? Artie visibly draws into himself a bit. Yeah, I like to call it a process these days. Most of the recovery is over, I think. Oh, I see. It's silent for just a second too long. Cameron's slow response is mainly due to being distracted, having finally deciphered Artie's general thoughts, feelings and emotions. In that moment, that guard had slipped, and Cameron realises Artie knows he's psychic. Of course he told him that. And now he knows it, truly believes it. And for the past almost 2 years, he'd realised how much of this happened because of Cameron. Arturo is afraid of Cameron. The cat senses the strangeness, the offness of who Cameron is now. Arturo also wonders if it's possible that Coyote brought a piece of Echo into the house with him. That shadow entity. It entered him and never came back out as far as Arturo knows. Who's to say it's not still?
Or maybe it's like a management phase? That's what Cam calls it anyway, right honey?
Devon, probably confused by the tension, tries to add more to the conversation. Yeah, that's right. That piece of shit hurt you pretty badly too, huh? Yeah, really it's the schizophrenia I was diagnosed with afterwards I'm still trying to manage. Cameron suddenly decided to just tell Arturo about his own struggles, if only to look for some sympathy, understanding. Seems unfair not to tell him, for some reason anyway. For a moment Arturo's expression becomes one of genuine sadness. Oh, I'm really sorry to hear that, Cameron. Was it from what happened? I hope it wasn't the weed. No, I think it's what happened after that pushed me over the edge. I see. That makes sense. But I think it'd have happened anyway, eventually. Cameron shrugs. Maybe. I think I might have been in a prodromal state for years. It's obvious I was on the brink for a while. But he'll never know. For that moment, though, it feels like he and Artie have made a connection. Artie understands they have completely different problems. They're both life-changing, and the two of them are bound to these problems the remainder of their lives. But then Artie senses that darkness, that bit of echo emanate from Cameron again, and he mentally recoils.
Well, it's been a rough road. We managed to find some stability at the end of last year.
God, it's such a pain in the ass trying to settle on the right meds. Well, that took Maria a few years, I think. Hey, Maria. There's some rustling from the hallway. The young leopard comes into the living room. Maria clearly having been very nearby in the hall. Why'd you go? Just wanted to give you guys some space. We just thought about how long it can take to adjust to meds. Maybe you can give him advice again? She leans in to give Arturo a kiss, and Arturo takes it without a single hint of embarrassment or annoyance. Another solid rock in Artie's life, and one that will stay until the end. While Cameron would never normally invade someone's mind like this, the Coyote doubts he'll have many chances to do so again in the future, and he needs to know if Artie's on a good track or not. Maria turns to Cameron, because they themselves have been friends for years, even a little longer than he's known Devon. You can tell this is weirdly set up. Oh yeah, antidepressants, antipsychotics, mood stabilizers. I feel like I've been through almost all of them. Yeah, makes me want to sleep all day, but also tear up my fur and crawl out of my skin. Cameron likes Maria a lot, and just like Devon and Arturo, they slip back into the old swing of things. It's nice, but he can't help but notice how he's been swept out of the conversation with Arturo. Anyway, the main reason I went back to work this early is because I needed something normal. Sure, things are harder now, stuttering, memory shit, can't really depend on the right side of my body anymore. fuck, is it nice not being cooped up in here living on disability? The only thing work has complained about is I guess my inhibition's a bit lower than they used to be.
I swear I'm not trying to be a dick, but I haven't even noticed that.
Oh yeah, it says about too many words to little tact, like 3 years ago, so I'm pretty sure it's just me. I can kind of tell that might be affecting you now, but sometimes it's hard to tell the side effects from symptoms of psychosis, especially the residual negative symptoms. I mean, positive symptoms are obvious, but making your thoughts flow normally again, making yourself want to go back outside, talk to people, live, that tends to come back last, and sometimes it comes back a bit different. Sometimes it doesn't come back at all. Now, while he tries to hold a conversation about psychotropic medications with Maria, he realises how much things have changed. In fact, if Cameron's visions hold true, this will be one of the last of a handful of times he'll speak to Artie. It hurts. It leaves Cameron feeling a deep pit of guilt, shame, and even a little anger, most because it's unfair and he can't blame anyone. But as he watches his old friend laugh and talk to Dev, almost like what happened never happened, Cameron sees a long, solid friendship ahead of them, and he's happy for that. Cameron realises, even without having to read minds, that Maria is specifically there to keep Cameron distracted, to keep him away from Arturo. That finally shuts up the psychic part of Cameron's brain. Rather than leaving a hollow feeling, he's left feeling like he's been punched. Why are they treating him like a monster? Like he's the one. The final thought he receives is from Maria, and deep down, and her concern for Cameron's diagnosis, she's wondering if he's prodding at Arturo's mind. Arturo can sense him. His own sensitivity is subtle, almost too understated to be picked up on, but it's there. That's why he feels like Cameron is carrying Echo with him. Cameron is mainly worried that Arturo knows what he's doing right now, and his neck and cheeks become warm as he feels like he's been caught in the act. Marie mentions about how she has tardive dyskinesia, and Cameron focuses back on the conversation, genuinely curious if it's gotten better for her with time. And that's how the rest of the afternoon plays out. The reason I only see Arturo 2 or 3 more times in his life isn't because of Arturo or Maria. It's because Cameron knows he can't come back here and cause them stress like this. Cameron is no longer part of, or welcome in their lives, and he won't impose himself again. Despite the hurt from learning their true feelings about him, Arturo's future is, if he has to sum it up, a happy one. March 2023. Time continues on in its steady, unrelenting march, and it brings with it both good and bad. The pandemic falls into the background. Political instability comes to the forefront. Money becomes tighter. But the world keeps moving, as it tends to do. It still leaves Devon almost breathless at the idea that he'd changed their lives in one weekend. Well, he's never really personally hated anyone to the point he just wanted to hurt them. He does now. But that person is dead. He got the easy way out. For the first year, Devon wasn't sure how he'd continue his life. Cameron's either always sedated to the point of almost becoming unresponsive, or angry and sad to the point he'd just sit in the bathroom and cry. The feeling of helplessness, of knowing that Cameron wanted to be dead. He'd given up so much that he even told the bed he'd take opioids again if he could. And so Dev started doing things he didn't want to do, checking Cameron's drawers, pockets, and his side of the closet when he wasn't around. He's angry at the medical professionals who sent Cameron home because he simply had intrusive thoughts. This had relieved Cameron, though Devon was unsure. In fact, he knew it wasn't right, but Cameron was so happy, and it seemed to stop the episode. But then, over the next 2 days, he was in a deep psychotic state. His intrusive thoughts were actually thought insertions. By the time they got back to the hospital, he was screaming that he was actually dead. He accused Devon of planting speakers in the walls and cameras in the mirror, which he shattered. Over that first month, it was a normal sight to see Cameron sitting up in bed, brushing away non-existent bugs, completely unresponsive to anything Devon would say. But that's 2 years behind them now, and Cameron is finally starting to really live, become someone who seems to enjoy life again. Because while the positive symptoms of delusions, hallucinations, and depersonalization have been practically absent over the past year, the negative symptoms lingered. Devon had read about that over and over again. Lack of motivation, lack of interest in things that once gave pleasure, lack of expressive emotions, and moments of confusion and disorganized thought. It was the anhedonia that scared Cameron the most. It scared Devon too, because what's a life worth living if you don't want to do the things you trained and aspired to do most of your life? Despite being able to listen to music again, Cameron decided a few months back to finally hang up his guitar. Cameron's paw is still weak, and he still has a slight tremor to it when he holds it up. But Cameron hadn't touched his keyboard either, leaving it unplugged and dusty in their basement. The sight made Devon far more sad than it did Cameron. He still wonders if he'd been more of an advocate for Cameron, maybe pushed for further observation. They could have stopped the psychosis before it truly spiraled. Maybe he'd be his old self. What's wrong?
You're reading my mind again.
No, I can read your face. Devon just wanted to bring down Cameron's mood. He's the one that wanted to come out and walk around in the snow, and if Cameron wants to do something engaging and active, Devon will do it with him. It is strange they got so much of it in March, and it probably would be the last snowfall.
I just realised now the shape I am. Do you think I'm starting to get a gut? Like a bad one?
Aren't you on the thinner side for a bear nearer 30? Cameron makes a point of looking at Devon's midsection, then prods through it, making the bear huff. Oh, it is kind of squishy. Devon blushes.
You caught me by surprise. And you just got done saying I wasn't fat.
You're not fat, you're a bear. I just didn't think I'd feel the pudge through your coat. Cameron tries again, but as expected, Devon is tensed up and there's a little squishing to be had this time.
Let's sit down.
Devon brushes snow off a bench for them. Hey, hope I'm not annoying you. Devon closes his eyes in guilt, taking a deep breath.
No, I'm just worried about different things. I'm happy to be out here walking with you. It's good for the gut anyway.
Cameron rolls his eyes as they sit down. I'm getting chubbier too, you know. It happens. I love your body. If you want to fool around tonight, I can have a closer look. Cameron leans against Devon's shoulder.
What if I get to have a look at you too?
Deal. If we deem each other to be too chubby, we can go on a diet or something. Devon finds it strange that Cameron is the one usually cheering him up now. The coyote is worried about him, and Devon wishes he wouldn't be. Still, it makes him feel warm inside. He leans in to nuzzle Cameron. As he kisses his coyote, he realizes this is a good moment in his life. A day he'll look back on fondly. A day he'll look back on for comfort when harder days inevitably arrive. Devon glances up at the temple they're sitting across the street from.
I always wondered what that golden dude with the stick is doing up there.
It takes Cameron a few seconds to understand what Devon is talking about. The guy on top of Mormon temples. That's the angel Moroni, and he's holding a horn. He buried the gold plates.
How do you know that?
Some Mormon friends told me.
Oh, Cody, the bull?
Yeah.
You're thinking about converting?
Maybe if they ever become okay with this. Cameron leans in close to Devon again. Devon smiles. They hold each other for a while. Something's on Cameron's mind, though, but Devon knows to wait until the canine is ready. Devon, did you ever find what you're looking for? Devon immediately knows what Cameron's referring to. It makes his stomach twist into knots. I'll only bring it up this once, keep thinking about why we went in the first place. I just wonder if you're able to, figure stuff out.
Devon stares down at Cameron. Even though the coyote isn't intentionally pointing out Devon's cascade of failures into catastrophic failure, he feels it. I figured out it doesn't matter. It isn't worth finding out, and I need to focus on us.
Devon feels the sting of tears in his eyes, but forces it back.
I figured out I made a huge mistake and deeply hurt my friends.
Brian hurt us. Cameron says it almost instantly. You just don't seem as happy or outgoing as you used to be. I know, you're really busy with work and you just got your master's degree, which is so cool, but you seem...
Hey, it's like you said, we change. It's not really a divide, right? It's like chapters in our lives. We change with each one, and the last one we went through was brutal.
Yeah, nothing stays the same. We don't fully recover or become who we used to be. And still, we always want to go back to how it used to be. Devon feels a deep twinge in his chest, thinking about what life would be like now if they just made the right turn. It's like how they say you can never go home again. Because home isn't just a place, but it's people, and it's at a certain time. When it ends, it ends. You can never get it back.
Baby, I love you so much, and I know it sounds dumb as hell, but I can be your home. I'll be around as long as you want me to be, so you can always go home.
I always will. Sorry if I sounded depressing. I honestly feel at home with you. You're the only home I've got. You know what's weird?
Hmm?
I sense a lot from that temple. I've sensed in other spiritual places too. Like those Buddhist shrines in Huaxia town. And even those little shops where you see mediums and psychics. Feels like they're taking in energy and letting energy out too. It's like a portal.
Huh? What do you think that means?
I guess there's hope for everyone. Lupita, Artie, you and me. And that maybe, instead of nothing, there's... Devon, overwhelmed with grief, happiness, love and loss, kisses Cameron. They kiss for a long time, and Devon desperately hopes his Cameron is right. Because more than anything, he wants to start fresh again and do it right. But now, though, he's here with his husband, sitting and watching the snow fall silently. And that's okay. Because whether they disappear forever or go somewhere else, it'll be together. Devon feels a little hope reignite in his chest. There might be something. There might be nothing. But he's content to wait and find out. But that will be a long ways away, he's sure. Not until they're 110 after all.